John Cena and Randy Orton are set to write what could be the final chapter in their storied rivalry, which has been on and off again throughout the years, and they will do it at Backlash 2025. Fittingly, they will do it for the biggest prize in pro wrestling, the WWE Championship, just like they have in 10 previous encounters of their 20 televised bouts. Yeah, they've faced each other a lot throughout the years in WWE. The last time we checked, it's around 20 singles matches on premium live events, pay-per-views back in the day, and Monday Night Raw. And if you extend that number by the times they've been in the ring together in any different type of match, their matches on untelevised bouts, including their days in developmental WWE's Ohio Valley Wrestling, tag team matches, handicap matches, Royal Rumble. Yeah, they've been in there a lot. Despite the memes, the definitive memes, don't they mean everything but mean nothing in 3 hours? Yeah, despite all those memes about a never-ending rivalry of the late 2000s, fans are excited about this match coming up again. The nostalgia is dripping off the screen. This may be one of the longest and most definitive rivalries of their storied careers. Let's go deeper. Yeah, stick with us through the whole video to learn the amazing history of big match John Cena and the many bouts he's had with the Viper Randy Orton. Hit the like button if this match coming up has your interest, and get in the comments and tell us about your favorite wrestling rivalry and maybe why Cena and Orton are clicking so much for you as a fan. Also, subscribe to Sportskeeda Wrestling for more videos just like this and help us get to 200,000 subscribers. With 31 world championships between Cena and Randy Orton, it's not hard to see why many people see them as generational talents and just locked-in Hall of Famers. And fans are right in feeling that way. So we're gonna dive as deep as we can, and if there's something we missed, don't scream at us in the comments. We're trying to condense it all as much as we possibly can. John Cena and Randy Orton were part of the incredible Ohio Valley class of the early 2000s. This developmental territory produced generational headliners, with Batista, Brock Lesnar, Shelton Benjamin among the crew that came out of it, along with Orton and Cena. Randy Orton was destined to be one of the greatest of his generation, and he was a third-generation pro wrestling prodigy himself. Yeah, his dad was in the main event of the first WrestleMania, Cowboy Bob Orton, and now his son Randy was seemingly going to have a golden path to the highs of WWE. Still, he had to work his chops up in Louisville, Kentucky in OVW. John Cena had a considerably crazier road to reaching the WWE, going from sleeping in his car in California to having a garage as a home to working as a trainer in a Gold's Gym before he found his way into a pro wrestling school. This served as his stepping stone to getting into WWE, and by all accounts, he didn't take very long from the start of his training to get signed. Of course, they crossed paths in OVW, the developmental territory of WWE at the time, and they had 4 matches, 2 singles bouts and 2 tag team matches. Cena, who was then known as the Prototype, a muscle-bound cyborg, teamed with Rico Constantino as his manager and won his first match against Randy Orton and beautiful Bobby Eaton. Their singles record in the developmental end of WWE was 1-1, as Orton won their first match and Cena picked up the W back from him later. This would become a trend in their careers going forward, yes, for you nerdy people keeping track here. But the first year of their respective main roster careers would be complete opposites. Cena was given a good start, but in his first year, he really didn't connect the way most people would have anticipated, or maybe the way WWE officials anticipated, and was almost on the chopping block of potential talents to be released by the company. It took a miraculous moment on a tour bus in Europe for WWE executive Stephanie McMahon to hear Cena just freestyle rapping, and it saved his career and gave him a new character. While he became the Doctor of Thugonomics, it would begin a slow ascent to the top. Randy Orton's rise was much quicker. Much quicker. He suffered a shoulder injury just months into his televised debut, and it allowed him to get a featured role on television as a non-wrestling character. Yes, back when WWE aired something on Raw called the RNN, the Randy News Network. This allowed him to hone in on his villainous, narcissistic persona that took him to the top and made him someone who instantly got heat and reactions every time he returned to television. And once he recovered, he was shot right to the top as a part of the Evolution Group. Yes, the faction led by Triple H and the Nature Boy Ric Flair, where he would be teamed with another young up-and-comer, the Animal Dave Batista. Orton was becoming a legend killer, having some big-time matches with the likes of Mick Foley, and it felt like maybe let's roll the dice and have him break away from the group, except that didn't last that long. He did become the youngest world champion, dethroning Chris Benoit at SummerSlam 2004, yeah, but it catapulted him into a face turn that really didn't catch up with fans who were still enjoying booing him. Yes, Orton was exciting to watch, but he was exciting to boo. On the other side of things, on SmackDown, John Cena was working harder than anybody in the WWE roster, even though he wasn't being treated as the top guy. And we're well aware that his career was saved by that last chance to make it all work and how much he took advantage of it. He certainly made the most of it by organically connecting with the audience over years and becoming the most popular up-and-coming young superstar, especially with women and children. Although Cena was runner-up with another generational talent we've been talking about here, Batista, in the 2005 Royal Rumble, he was set to rocket himself into the WWE main event scene, and he still became WWE champion. Yes, that was quite the WrestleMania that year that followed that Rumble. Randy Orton didn't quite reach Cena's level of megastardom, though. He maintained a respectable number 2 or number 3 role in WWE consistently over the years that would follow, which has been enough to make him a highly respected legend that he is today. He also endured a lot of personal issues outside of the ring, along with some serious reoccurring injuries. The first truly televised to a mainstream audience bout between Cena and Randy Orton unfortunately came under some very sad circumstances. It was featured on the Eddie Guerrero tribute show in November of 2005, with Cena picking up the win. Fast forwarding a little over a year later, they clashed again on an episode of Monday Night Raw in early 2007. The match itself wasn't that bad, but Edge's interference caused a disqualification. It's not hard to see that the match was maybe more of a setup for an elaborate angle with other names that both of them were dealing with. The main story between Cena and Mr. WrestleMania Shawn Michaels on the road to that year's WrestleMania in Detroit was really the focus, and this was more of a side note to eventually what would become a bigger issue later in the year. Fast forward to the summer of 2007, and they finally had their proper showdown. This is where it really gets going. The early goings of their story in 07 were quite sharp, and quite frankly showed the stakes of what would come after them. Perhaps it was maybe the zenith of their story together. The zenith, quite the word there. Cena versus Orton for the WWE title at that year's SummerSlam had a simplistic yet effective build, with Orton softening Cena up for the main event with an RKO on a steel chair, because he's a no-good SOB. The entire 23-minute match is viewable for free on demand on WWE's YouTube channel right now as I talk to you, and it rightfully earned 4 stars from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. It's a funny thing to say that just when they started in 2007, the rivalry got them vicious and bloodthirsty against one another. Cena won the main event of that clash at SummerSlam. Just one night later on Raw, though, Randy Orton would punt John Cena Sr., John Cena's dad, in the head. That's a running kick to a senior citizen. This added a level of intensity in their feud in 07 and revved things up in a significant way. They were far from done with each other. Just a few weeks later, at the Unforgiven event, they would face off once again, with Orton getting the win back via DQ. Yeah, they couldn't give him the clean one over Big Match Johnny. Still, this match did not receive the love that their SummerSlam match got, with this follow-up here at Unforgiven getting unfavorable reviews of around 3.6 out of 10 over on cagematch.net. Yeah, it wasn't the most ideal win, as we've already covered here. A DQ for Cena, who basically was pummeling Orton with closed fists a little bit too much. Ooh, that technicality. And Orton lost basically for getting punched too hard too many times. It was an abrupt ending, and it was a common theme in their story where they brought out the absolute worst in each other. Due to the bad blood, Cena couldn't contain his emotions and got too much of himself and got disqualified, which, in the storyline psychology does make sense. Their story was supposed to continue and presumably conclude a trilogy of matches the following month at No Mercy, but that never happened. At an event in Chicago at the famed All-State Arena, formerly known as the Rosemont Horizon, No Mercy was advertised as a truly demonic Randy Orton about to crush a bird in his hands as he faced John Cena. Except John Cena ended up getting injured and had to vacate the title the week of the show, which threw the entire pay-per-view up in the air and ended John Cena's year-long title reign with an injury. An unfortunate circumstance. Wrestling's not ballet. Randy Orton was then handed the WWE Championship by Mr. McMahon at No Mercy. And this was one of the craziest nights for a pay-per-view that WWE had because Orton would immediately lose the title to Triple H and then successfully defended it against Umaga before having to face Randy Orton in the main event of the same night with Orton regaining the title. He was gifted the title and then won the title at the end of the night. Yeah, no birds were harmed. This time, an evil Randy Orton would go on to hold the title for a significant period of time. And when John Cena made his miraculous return at the 2008 Royal Rumble, way ahead of schedule, he won the match and immediately went after his old foe, who he had unfinished business with and who had his championship he never lost, Randy Orton. And instead of waiting until WrestleMania when you think you should get that showdown, he called his shot at No Way Out, the pay-per-view before WrestleMania. Yeah. Which was like the Elimination Chamber back in the day. The last stop before WrestleMania. Isn't this a WrestleMania match itself? Randy Orton intentionally got himself disqualified to spite John Cena once again, but one night later on Raw, Cena got his win back in a non-title match. That's right, you have world champions losing non-title matches here. As a result, he got added to the WWE title match at WrestleMania 24, which included Triple H, Randy Orton's old running buddy, and Cena and Orton, a big triple threat for the time. But on that night, Cena would lose after getting pinned by his biggest rival. They had one more showdown on Raw later that year, which had very little importance. JBL was the special guest referee, and the friction between Cena and him led to JBL giving Orton the win via a fast pin. It was more just a short angle than it was a match. This would become a reoccurring issue down the line, where there would be few too many inconsequential matches between Cena and Orton on television. Still, it did a lot for their character development, kept the storyline going, especially for the kids in the audience, and it began to associate Cena and Orton as one of the more hardcore rivalries that WWE could go back to. These guys would never like each other, and there would always be some friction there to play into a match. That's probably why they had a massive series of matches when they rekindled that fire between them a couple of years later. In 2009, Cena and Randy Orton were playing ping pong with the WWE Championship over several premium live events. That year, Randy Orton was the wickedest of his villainous run, so much so that 2009 Orton is a benchmark for what it means to be a villain in general. He headlined WrestleMania that year and lost in the main event, but regained the WWE title from Triple H soon after. He went on a tear, and it culminated in his series of matches against good guy wearing the jorts, John Cena. At SummerSlam 09, yes, 2 years after they faced at a different SummerSlam, Randy Orton retained the WWE title. But less than a month later, John Cena would dethrone him in a brutal I Quit match. This may be one of the most well-reviewed matches between Cena and Orton. In an I Quit match with a definitive ending at the WWE Breaking Point event, it would get 4.5 stars from the Wrestling Observer and get a 7.5 rating from the users on CageMatch.net. Cena would defeat Randy Orton in that match, an I Quit match, and take the title with him. But WWE was not quitting on this rivalry. Randy Orton would once again snake his way into the championship a few weeks later at Hell in a Cell. But fast forward another 3 weeks, Cena would win it back in a 60-minute Iron Man match. This would close out the major bragging rights show and may have been one of the high parts of a show that really didn't have much else going on with it in terms of fan interest. Yes, Orton and Cena were truly proving themselves to go the distance at 60 minutes, trading different finishers and moves throughout the match, but Big Match Johnny came out in the end as a tenacious babyface, as one fan commented online. In terms of all-time Iron Man matches in WWE, though, is it better than Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels? Not really, but still fantastic for the time in which it was presented. We got even more of Cena and Randy Orton around this time, with WWE running it back one more time a couple of months later in a tournament final match to determine the Superstar of the Year. Cena would come out on top, which is something that WWE made a habit of during this time. And Big Match Johnny was coming out big in basically every big match he had around this time. But when you look at the fact that he was the face of WWE at the time and certainly more popular with the fans than Randy Orton, who was a heel, who was supposed to be less loved, it kind of makes sense, I guess, when you really pull back the zoom on it. But that wouldn't be the end of their showdowns. They were far from done. In September and October of 2010, Randy Orton would get a big win against Cena. To their credit, WWE wasn't exactly hot around this time, but Orton and Cena got the crowd in Cincinnati, Ohio wild that night. So you could tell just how much the basic casual fan was into the idea of Cena versus Orton being presented in their town. In October of 2010, their match on Raw had much higher stakes. Cena at the time had unfortunately put himself in a position where he was now subservient to the Nexus as a member under the command of Wade Barrett. After making Cena and another Nexus member, David Otunga, surrender the WWE Tag Team titles to Heath Slater and Justin Gabriel via the old-fashioned lie down and take the pin because I told you so, he then put Cena in another big spot. He would face Randy Orton in the main event of Raw to determine the special guest referee for their WWE title match at Survivor Series. Paying the favor back from the previous night, Barrett took Cena out during his match with Orton and gave him the DQ win. As a result, Wade Barrett picked up Cena to become his special guest referee, but there was an additional caveat for the Survivor Series match. If Barrett lost, Cena would have been fired, and if he won, Cena would be relieved of his Nexus duties. Orton won the match, and Cena got fired, quote unquote, but he still returned the next night anyway and cost Wade Barrett his rematch against Randy Orton at Raw. You don't have enough bleach to clean up this mess. This directly led to The Miz cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase on a prone Randy Orton on Raw, creating a ripple effect for the ages. Certainly an underrated Money in the Bank cash-in in retrospect. It would be another 3 years before Cena and Orton would tangle once more, which was probably for the best because they had a lot of matches between 2007 and 2009. The next time they would tangle, it would be under different circumstances with different consequences. By the end of 2013, WWE had had enough of 2 different World Championships for 2 different shows. A match was made to unify them, one true champion above all. And at the time, Randy Orton was the WWE Champion, the one with the most legacy, while John Cena was the World Heavyweight Champion, the big gold belt. The main event of the TLC event that year would feature 2 legendary rivals squaring off in a tables, ladders, and chairs match to determine the undisputed, unified WWE World Heavyweight Champion. At the time, fans were thinking, wow, this is a big deal, it's consequential, but had we had enough of Orton and Cena? Was the magic gone between these two? This time, it was Randy Orton who came out on top, and they had a rematch at the Royal Rumble, but Orton defeated him again. As much as people say, John Cena doesn't do business and he buries people, we're starting to see things a different way here with Randy Orton. WWE in 2014 as a whole was really not in its strongest place, so it shouldn't surprise you that Orton and Cena had non-title rematches on Raw just 2 weeks later, and Cena pinned him clean in the middle. This time, the crowd chanted, "boring," and their main event match was not hitting the feeling it did years earlier when they were paired together, which should tell you how fans felt about a lot of different things with WWE at the time. The context and place that they were in at that point in their careers needed to be addressed and refreshed. For one, Cena was very slowly being maybe not the top guy in WWE. Even at the end of 2014, he was taking on a more unique semi-main event level. Orton went on to headline WrestleMania once more and do it as the champion. Cena was still heavily featured on television, but not exactly at the top of the card. He needed something unique away from a championship. Even when he won the WWE World title in 2014, it was only because he was a placeholder for Daniel Bryan, who surged into popularity but had to vacate the title due to an abrupt injury right after the triumph of WrestleMania 30 and Yeselmania, a title he won from Randy Orton in a match that included Batista. And Cena would serve a true transitional championship role to get squashed by Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam that year for the championship. WWE decided it was a good idea to have Cena and Orton clash twice again in the span of just a month. In their match in 2014 in September, Cena won by DQ. In their Hell in a Cell match to determine the #1 contender for the WWE World title, Cena would walk out with the last laugh again. Thankfully, WWE probably knew they needed to keep them apart for a very long time. A year after their Hell in a Cell, which is supposed to be a feud ender, Cena officially transitioned into a part-time player, and after that, he became a 16-time world champion in 2017, and they had their last match to date on an episode of SmackDown. Cena was the newly crowned WWE champion, so it kind of makes sense that he won that match and protected the run he was on at that time. Because of how interconnected their stories are, Bray Wyatt menacingly defeated Cena for the WWE title, with Orton subsequently dethroning Wyatt himself in a separate storyline. So once again, they were world champions in the span of a couple months, but not directly playing with each other, but Bray Wyatt playing between them. They looked like it was going to be a conclusion of a chapter until Cena announced his retirement from professional wrestling and from WWE at the end of the calendar year of 2025. When that happened, just about everyone wanted to see one match on Cena's retirement tour. John Cena versus Randy Orton. Run it back one more time. Any smart fan who knows where a wrestler is from, especially if a wrestler is from St. Louis, Missouri, they knew that when the big event following up WrestleMania 41 would be Backlash 2025 in St. Louis. They knew they were going to get something big with the biggest wrestler ever out of St. Louis, Randy Orton. And it seemed fitting that they would run back Cena versus Orton one more time. And indeed, that's exactly what we're going to get. The two superstars went neck and neck at the height of their careers, and now, as they run into the twilight victory lap of them, they get to dance one more time. It's hard to see a scenario where Randy Orton dethrones this evil John Cena, but the interesting interplay of Randy Orton now being a smarter, wiser, still conniving veteran, but one that certainly has real estate in the hearts of fans and isn't viewed as a villain, while Cena is someone who just recently turned on the fans who's been with him for decades. We're just lucky for the first time ever we get to see it play out with the dynamics being completely reversed. Yeah, Cena's the villain, Randy Orton's the good guy. That feels weird to say out loud. Let's get extra nerdy and go into the stats. John Cena's televised record against Randy Orton stands at 13-7, and there's little doubt as to who won this record when fans got to see it live on TV. But at Backlash 2025, it will determine a definitive stamp, and if Orton loses, it's going to be a big talking point of his career that maybe he never got that big last one from Johnny. We're not going to over-glamorize this issue between Cena and Orton and tell you it's one of the greatest rivalries of the century. It's up there, but is it the greatest? When you look at the sheer number of matches they had, it kind of sets them up to have a handful of duds anyway, just by the law of averages. Their three best matches, we think, feel like SummerSlam 2007, the I Quit match from Breaking Point 2009, and the Iron Man match from bragging rights of that same year. Seek those out if you want to go back down the memory lane of big matches between Cena and Orton. WWE tried hard to make them a generational defining rivalry, but to many, Cena's rivalries, say with the Rated R Superstar or the Second City Saint CM Punk, could be ranked higher in the overall retrospective of his career that people are in now, with him wrapping things up by the end of this year. John Cena is a defining superstar and a story for Randy Orton. Without Randy Orton, Cena wouldn't have reached the heights he did as well. They define each other. Their interplay and chemistry was undeniable. The fact that they have so much nostalgia playing into this match coming up is meaningful. For many lifelong fans, seeing Randy Orton and John Cena one last time is different, but still undeniably meaningful. This isn't simply about match quality, it's about the feeling you had the last time you saw them fight each other. For many fans, seeing Orton and Cena one more time simply takes them back. The nostalgia overrides match quality and five-star classics. If you're in the Gen Z category or a late millennial, this match takes you directly back to simpler times, the way a rivalry with this factor should. Yeah, you're gonna feel like a kid again, except it's gonna be weird to boo John Cena unless you were a teenager back then booing John Cena. And this is the true power of lifelong WWE fandom and the nostalgia that rides with it. The stardom and the story between both of them is playing off of their history and doing it one more time. We keep going back to that part, but it's undeniable. It wasn't about their matches. It was about their interplay, the feeling they had between each other, the bitter issues they had with one another, trying to become the guy, trying to become the face of the company. Is the current iteration of Cena versus Orton a nostalgia grab for WWE? Sure. Is that a bad thing? No. Disney's multi-billion-dollar empire today is a foundation of nostalgia. WWE is playing on their past. Cody Rhodes finished the story of his father, and that was decades before him. But WWE is not Disney, and they didn't exactly go the nostalgia route with Cena on his last go-around, just having him do the greatest hits and play the good guy. They threw a curveball. So we can't exactly say that this is a complete nostalgia feel-good tour for John Cena, because it feels weird for some people to boo him, and some people still just want to cheer him because he's John Cena. Whatever the criticism might be for the whole Cena heel turn, and there's still some of you out there that are very active, we expect some of you in the comments, it's probably okay to have a mixed match of dream matches and greatest hits. The match is meant to be a spectacle. It will be that. The crowd will be crazy before they even touch each other. Let us know what you think and who you're picking in John Cena versus Randy Orton. How did it impact your childhood and fandom of the past? As always, thank you for watching, and if you watch this whole video, subscribe to Sportskeeda Wrestling and help us get to 200,000 subscribers.